Thank you for joining us at this news hour, live from my headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Barbara Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, 2 persons electrocuted to death. It happened today in the town of Bafoussam, West region of the Republic of Cameroon. Motorbike riders, particularly commercial motorbike riders in the city of Douala, accused of disrespecting prescriptions of a presidential decree, spelling out their functions and putting limits to their powers. And also in this newscast, we will tell you who is the 5th president of Kenya. William Ruto becomes the 5th president of that country after independence. How did he gain prominence on the political arena of Kenya? We will answer these questions in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. Thank you for joining us at this news hour. We begin in the West Regional Chief Town, Bafoussam, headquarters of the West region of the Republic of Cameroon, where 2 persons have been electrocuted to death. The 2 persons were offloading goods from a truck, and they were electrocuted when they came in contact with a high tension cable, and they were simply electrocuted to death. One of them fell off the truck and the other died on the truck, and this happened earlier today in the town of Bafoussam. And of course, the truck was stationed around in an area where high tension cables were passing, seen in the air, and because of that they came in contact with the high tension cables and they were simply electrocuted to death in Bafoussam, West region of Cameroon. An accident leaves several persons injured, many of them with serious wounds, very serious wounds on the Douala-Bafoussam highway earlier today, and the accident occurred in a locality known as Maleke on the Douala-Bafoussam highway, involving a truck and a smaller vehicle that led to several vehicles colliding and leaving several persons injured. At the time these images were taken by citizen journalists, there were 2 persons who were trapped in one of the vehicles and in very difficult conditions. Several persons were wounded in that accident that occurred earlier today on the Bafoussam-Douala highway, and this is yet another accident that is coming to add to the series of accidents recorded on highways across the Republic of Cameroon. And there has been there has been an increase in the number of accidents recorded on highways across the Republic of Cameroon, and many of these accidents are attributed to factors including human errors, overspeeding, reckless driving, wrong overtaking, and of course the bad state of roads running across the Republic of Cameroon. Several sections of the national highways are in a deplorable state, and these are some of the factors that are often raised when an accident like this one, which occurred on the Douala-Bafoussam highway, occurs. And of course, we'll be bringing to you greater details on this in our subsequent news editions. Now, another thing provoking accidents, notably in major cities of the Republic of Cameroon, the political capital Yaoundé, and then the economic capital Douala, is the poor conduct, or what has been qualified as the poor conduct of municipal police agents who are sent to the streets to do some work in terms of controlling the vehicles that are circulating, controlling the documents of vehicles and commercial motorbike riders. Often than not, friction will erupt in such activities, leading to traffic jam and sometimes accidents. And these commercial agents of the city council and sometimes the municipal councils are accused of disrespecting prescriptions of a presidential decree, spelling out their functions and limits to their powers. Anabila reports.
En tout cas, fait mes courses à Andobolawa. J'ai été interpellé par 2 agents communaux.
He is a motorcyclist. He has been stopped by the municipal police of the Douala 4 area and his bike seized and parked aside.
Alors j'ai abandonné ça là-bas parce qu'ils veulent même la facture.
He explains that the municipal police asked for insurance papers which he didn't provide since his bike is an old one. Though he has his permit, the municipal police went further to ask for the receipt of his old bike or pay 25,000 francs as fine.
Ils ont demandé 25 000. Moi, j'ai dit qu'il n'y a pas 25 000, il y a 1000 francs.
He offered 1,000, then 2,000, which they refused to take. This is the problem faced by road users in different municipalities in Douala. They decry the fact that most times the council police hardly respect the recommendations in a recent presidential decree. They bring these guys from the quarters to come and do control. You just saw for yourself. There was neither a police nor a gendarme officer. They control and put barricades in front of your car. Most times I ask them first to be controlled by a police officer. Some other road users think after the presidential decree readjusting the role of municipal police, users must give time for the council police officers to toe the line.
Donc la mayonnaise prendra certainement petit à petit, puisque le but de la police et des policiers municipaux c'est quoi? C'est pour que la circulation soit fluide.
It will come with time. The goal of the municipal police is to ensure that traffic is fluid. When we see them, we feel secured. We need to collaborate with them to ease their jobs and not judge them all the time.
Et nous devons leur faciliter la tâche et les
Dr. Adamu Fombore is chief of poll tax recovery in the Douala 4 area. He says motorcyclists and car owners must work in collaboration with the municipal police in a win-win partnership. We can't tell you how many times we give defaulters time to look for money and come and collect their bikes or cars. Without taxpayers, the council is nothing. It's the users who give the means to the council to function.
Nous sommes là pour rendre service aux populations, non pas pour terroriser les populations. Nous sommes très rigoureux sur ça. Quand il y a moyen de...
The mayor doesn't want to hear that the local population or road users are complaining. According to the recent presidential decree, the municipal police is to ensure other than public safety and security. They are also supposed to clean, turn on public lights, facilitate the crossing of roads by pupils, and must not use force on the users, but can replace the police if need be. The municipal police should work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and their role can be suspended by the SDU.
Now to the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, where insecurity has continued imposing itself on the people for several years today, especially with the Boko Haram insurgency that's been going on for more than a decade today. 3 suspected kidnappers have been arrested by gendarme officers in Marwa. They are said to have attempted to kidnap a businessman. Among the suspects is an ex-military officer. Smanjikan Gebre has more.
Amongst the 3 suspects who were presented was a military officer, ex-convict who was leading a group of armed bandits operating in the far north region of Cameroon.
These 3 thieves came all the way from Yaoundé. They arrived around the 3rd of August, and they went straight to the house of Mr. Yaya Boubakari, having with them a fake warrant of arrest, and they told the man that he is suspected of being involved in the sale of stolen vehicles, and they have come to arrest him. They took him before his family and went away. A moment after, the man started sending information to his family, indicating that he was instead being kidnapped.
The three men traveled from Yaoundé to Marwa after targeting an economic operator. They presented the economic operator with a fake document which ordered them to bring the man to Yaoundé. The man will be later forced to the back boot of a car. Unfortunately, while the alleged group was still to come up with a plan, the economic operator managed to send information to his family members, who will later inform the gendarmes.
Instructions were immediately given for a search, an operational search on the field. At 7 p.m., we were able to locate them and to arrest the thieves. We found the victim locked up at the back boot of the car. We also found the thieves carrying a pistol with them, with ammunition. We also found some other military material that they were carrying with them.
Out of the 5 members that make up the gang, gendarmes were able to catch up with 3, while 2 managed to escape. Security forces seized a gun, a bulletproof, alongside some military equipment with the suspects.
There is still tension in Kenya after the proclamation of results of the presidential election. Supporters of Raila Odinga have been protesting and saying that the election was marked by rigging. And of course, William Ruto becomes the 5th president of Kenya. He won the votes with 50.49% of the votes, slightly or narrowly defeating Raila Odinga. But who is the 5th president of Kenya? Who is William Ruto? How did he gain prominence on the political scene in the country? Answers to these questions in this report compiled by Immaculate Fowe.
On the 21st of December 1966 in Sambut village, 55-year-old William Samuel Arap Ruto shot to prominence as a youth organizer for former strongman President Daniel Arap Moi, becoming one of Kenya's youngest lawmakers and ministers. He had supported Raila Odinga during the disputed 2007 election, when at least 1,200 people were killed after political violence sparked off. Both he and Kenyatta faced charges at the International Criminal Court over violence. The case was later thrown out given that there was insufficient evidence. Ruto then switched sides and became Kenyatta's deputy president in 2013, but they fell out after the 2017 election when Kenyatta reconciled with Odinga and distanced himself from Ruto. Ruto is a former teacher who holds a doctorate degree in plant ecology from the University of Nairobi. During the campaign, Ruto described himself as the hustler-in-chief, citing his humble beginnings as a chicken seller who fought his way to the top of Kenya's politics. He's expected to provide solutions to Kenya's pressing economic problems, including growing debt, high food and fuel prices, and mass youth unemployment. William Ruto becomes Kenya's 5th president since independence as he wins the seat during his first attempt. Ruto's party, the Kenya First Coalition, has won majority of seats in Kenya's Senate and the second highest at the National Assembly. Ruto won with 50.49% of vote, narrowly defeating veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga, who was contesting for the 5th time.
And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Our guest today is Barrister Nkamwa Limen. He's a lawyer, head of the Nkamwa Limen law firm here in Cameroon's economic capital. Well, and with him, we're going to be talking about the rule of law In the Republic of Cameroon, there has been a general outcry of violations of human rights and non-respect of the laws of the land by even the people who are called to ensure the rule of law in Cameroon. Barrister, thank you for joining us today. First of all, what do we mean by the rule of law? What is exactly the content of the rule of law?
Rule of law means that everybody is subject to the law, that nobody is above the law. Means therefore that even the ministers, even the President of the Republic is subject to the law. And no other consideration is given except those considerations as predicted by the law. That's the meaning of rule of law, that law prevails in that society.
Assessment as a legal mind, does that obtain in Cameroon today?
There is no society where they can tell you that there's absolute rule of law. There are some considerations, be them policy considerations, social considerations in every society. But I think your question should be, can we boast that averagely we can talk about rule of law in Cameroon? And the answer is, well, to an extent, since I'm a lawyer and I cannot be a lawyer and tell you that there's no rule of law. It means therefore that I don't know what I'm doing. There is rule of law in Cameroon, but if you go on comparative terms, you will say that the rule of law in Europe, America is more than that in Cameroon. And therefore it is for us to strive, to work, to push hard that there's rule of law in Cameroon. It's true that there are some abuses that you see that when you go to law, there are different standards imposed to different persons. For example, you can bring a complaint against an individual because of his social rank. The magistrate or the investigating officer will treat them differently. And then there is that sensation that some people can commit offense, some people can do whatever they like in a society. In a society where there's rule of law, everybody is subject to the law.
Now, should the law or its implementation be discriminatory?
You know, in law they say there is, for every rule there's an exception. So generally, there should be no exemption, no differences in the application of the law. But the law itself, going to further thinking, has made some discriminations. For example, for you to bring a criminal action against a parliamentarian, you need to go through, you must have an authorization, a fiat, for you to do that. There are so many other processes that before you bring an action against them, you need kind of clearance. So in that instance, you discover that the rule of law has simply been waived. It has simply been waived by another legal instrument. So the general rule is that everybody should be subject to the law. The law is above every citizen. That is the general rule. But as I said, there are some exceptions in every society, not just peculiar to Cameroon.
Now, let's take the case of former Minister Basil Atanganakuna, who was arrested on corruption and embezzlement charges. And after he paid the money, after he refunded the money as the law requires, the law on the Special Criminal Court, the function of the Special Criminal Court requires, he was released. There are other people who have been in detention for several months, several years. They have neither been tried, they have neither been presented to any magistrate or in any court of law. They have not received anything. Many of them are even detained incommunicado. What's your take on this?
You can only compare like cases. If those examples you are giving me are cases brought in front of the Special Criminal Tribunal, which has a special jurisdiction, I will understand you. But if your examples fall out of the jurisdiction of that court, then I might not understand you, because legally the provisions creating that court makes it clear that if you restitute what you are accused to have embezzled, they'll release you. They'll drop charges against you. You see, people talk and they forget to know that that provision of the law has a spirit. There is a reason why the law was made that way. And each time you look at a law, try to know that every law has a spirit. The spirit behind that law is that they wanted to encourage people to reform. And if this person, is a former minister, if he has restituted the money, and by virtue of the law, they apply the law, then it is still within his right to be released. So the issue might be the law itself, right? Is the law, does that law reflect the aspiration of Cameroonians? Many Cameroonians think that when you embezzle money, you should not give just the sum that you embezzled. You see, you should pay some damages, you should bring in some money. So the issue at stake is to verify if additional money was paid. You see, but as per his release. That's what the law says. And if you are talking about rule of law, it means that law has been applied. There is something you must know. You cannot compare two persons locked up when one does not have a very sharp and pushful counsel. You understand? So don't make that difference. Somebody might be locked up, and because you don't have a lawyer at all, your matter will not come up. There will be delay in the procedure. If you have a lawyer who is not extremely pushful, your matter will not come up as fast as if you have a pushful lawyer. There are all those things to put into consideration, right? To know whether somebody has been forgotten in the cell, what has happened to this person, what has happened to this person. Those are the issues. Then, for him to plead, even in court, when you go to court and you plead guilty to the charges against you, the procedure is faster. So if Tangarakuna was arrested and he pleaded guilty and said, I'm going to restitute, his release will be more speedy, rapid than those who plead not guilty. To the best of my knowledge, Amadou Bamuke did not plead guilty. So they have to go into proper investigation, a full court trial to establish. That notwithstanding, I'm not saying that they are right in this matter. No. There is a very serious abuse as far as that man is concerned. For what reason would they adjourn 60-something times to hear his matter? Now, what I want us to know is that those people who are in power, he was once in power too, and they should not forget that the way they are applying the law could be applied on them some other time. Nobody will want that somebody spend so much time for the matter to be heard in court. But that is a system which we must decry, which we must condemn without mincing words.
Now, after the release of the former minister, a young human rights activist initiated a protest demanding the release of other prisoners of Operation Sparrowhawk, including Amadou Vamulki and Marafa Hamidou Yaya. He was arrested and later released. What do you think about this?
The arrest of that young man was illegal. Whoever arrested him has a mental problem. Somebody goes to declare his intention, and because you're overzealous to become maybe a governor, because it was done by a DO, if I'm right, the DO arrest him. You are arresting him for what? He has been released because that was the wrong thing that was done. Now, comparing the situation with the others, I've made it clear that if the others pleaded guilty and restituted the money, they are in their right, therefore, to request that they be granted liberty equally. So you cannot take those cases, you understand, and compare them without having sufficient facts. And as a lawyer, I deal with those facts. The Atanganakuna pleaded guilty. That's why he refunded his money. I don't think Marafat pleaded guilty. I'm of the opinion that Cameroonians have been abused. That in misappropriating funds belonging to all Cameroonians, an offense was committed to individual Cameroonians. And therefore, the logical question to ask is, if I should get up today and bring an action against him, is that action going to fail? You understand? They are taking money, embezzling money that belongs to all Cameroonians, cause prejudice, damages to all Cameroonians. We don't have roads, we don't have water, we don't have light. And you see the amount of money, someone is restituting as money he accepts to have embezzled. Look, it is terrible. And this go to all the ministers. It is a shame that by paying that money, it is very obvious that we have ministers who are thieves. Because there's no other word to qualify that than ministers who are thieves. How do you explain that one minister should steal that amount of money?
Now, what do you think about the impunity that seems to be prevailing in Cameroon? The impunity decried by right defenders, civil society activists in the country, suspected bandits who are arrested today and taken to the police, and the next day they are on the street attacking other people. People's rights are violated. People violate the rights of other citizens and go unpunished. People who are arrested, even within the context of the Anglophone crisis, and detained for as long as possible without being tried, without being judged. And when you even talk to persons, activists who are fighting against trafficking in person, they will tell you that one of the major obstructions to the implementation of the law on human trafficking in Cameroon is the fact that those who are arrested and not judged and not punished according to the law, because many of them are either economically, politically, or financially very powerful.
Mr. Babila, we live in a jungle in this country to begin with. We live in a jungle, and we live in a society where corruption is so rampant. You know, the worst thing we have in this country is that the judicial police officers we have, who are supposed to conduct investigations, are so mean. Most of them are so mean. Mr. Babila, I, a lawyer, I brought a case against somebody who dug water from his house, from his house and directed it on the road. That creates me a problem to enter my compound, which is an offense for you to direct water on the road. I go to the police station, I lay a complaint. They went there, they saw that this thing was done, I am right to say, to bring this action. They took my statement and did everything. And when the man came, probably gave them money. And they started playing with the fire. They are doing that to a lawyer, then what more of ordinary citizens? That is commissariat dispute in Lokpong. So I just want to let you know that where the judicial police officers have nothing to offer than collect money, you have those situations. Look, those guys are ready to arrest those traffickers with proofs. Once they have money, once you bribe them, you are done, you can go. And that is a problem. Those who even go to the courts, when they go to the courts, how many magistrates are just? How many magistrates render good justice? You see, it is a problem. But some of us will fight for justice. And coming to the Anglophone crisis, you know, it is seriously political. And political matters are treated differently differently from other normal civil matters. Why? Because the government has an interest. And once the government has an interest, the government wants to keep those people. And I think it's the wrong thing to do, because you see create social unrest. You see create some families, you see create pains in some families. Whereas the government could do the right thing to pardon those people, because their revendications are just. Their revendications are good. Safe for those who maybe along the line killed others, you see. kill others, because in saying all these things, we should not in any way encourage people to pick up arms and kill others. We have to condemn that. You can bring your actions, you can do whatever you do, but killing others is not the right thing to do. Whether they are Ambazonians, whether they're from the government, whether they're civilians, is not the right thing to do. Everybody has his right to his life.
Now, if you were to give an advice to the Minister of Justice, the President of the Republic, and the other authorities charged with the responsibility to ensure the rule of law in Cameroon, what will you tell them?
Law does not start or end with them. It doesn't begin and end with them. The rule of law starts with all of us. How ready am I to respect your rights? How ready am I not to corrupt a judicial police officer from not saying the right thing? How ready am I not to go and pay a judge to render a judgment against somebody? So it begins with all of us. All of us. Now, at the level of the minister, I think so far, the problem is not the minister. Because if you write a complaint addressed to the minister, he reacts. The President of the Republic, he's there. He does not, he's not available. He doesn't see what is happening every day. But the police commissioners, the brigade commanders, and the commanders, they are there in the fields. It begins, rule of law begins with us all. When I know that my rights end where yours begins, that is the beginning of rule of law. When we all choose to stand for the right things, that is rule of law. When we stop thinking that we'll use our positions and money to shift the position of the law, we'll have rule of law. It is incumbent on every Cameroonian to fight to have a good society.
Now, to the law enforcement officers who are directly in contact with the population, the common man, seeking protection in the law or by the law.
Yes, Mr. Babida, when you want to start revendicating your rights, you don't see the president in front of you. You don't see the Minister of Justice in front of you, but at least you see the Commissioner of Police in front of you. You see the brigade commanders in front of you. My prayer is that these people who've been entrusted the duty to protect the rights of individuals should be honest. They should be honest. You know, if the commissioner in your neighborhood is honest, okay, there was a recent case I heard about somewhere around Cité de Palmier, where a businessman bought a field, he bought a piece of land where people use as field, and then he wanted to construct. The people went and complained, came and stood, and then he was a commissioner. The commissioner came and stood. That is a commissioner. He rescued the problem. If he did not stand for those people, they would have constructed whatever in that place. So the people that we have, that we meet, we have the possibility of meeting every day, are those police commissioners, the judicial police officers, that's the police and gendarmes, who are charged with the duty to bring to see into it that there is rule of law, that there is security, and that people respect the law. You see, that is where the problem is. No police officer has been dismissed in this country for being a just person. No commander has been dismissed in this country because they reported that he did so well. No, the president is in Yaoundé, he's in his house. The Minister of Justice is in his house, in his office. He deals with the organization of the judiciary. The president deals with the country as a whole. But those commissioners and police, those commissioners and commanders, they have a day-to-day relationship with the population. What are they doing? The state council, what are they doing? These are the people that should see into it that the rule of law prevails in a society. The people have to speak out. They have to speak out.
Head of the Nkamu Alimen Law Firm here in Douala. Thank you for staying with us today, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.